All right, Elisha Shannon, welcome to the Millennial Mastermind podcast. My brother, how's it going?
Thanks for having me, Brad. Let me just first off say I am super pumped for this opportunity. Never been on a podcast, and I think it's going to be a pretty good time.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's going to be awesome, and you are the first YouTuber I've had on, so that makes sense
Oh,
why this is the first time I've recorded the video of it. It's been something I've been talking about doing for a long time, and as I mentioned when we were just chatting a minute ago, I was like, all right, I'm bringing a YouTuber on the show. I've got to have the visuals to it. Like, it just
yeah.
goes hand in hand.
Well, I think I got to kind of apologize because I known it was going to be video, we probably should have gotten Justin, the other guy that's a part of the YouTube channel, on here because he's a little bit more of the looks than I am. So they're gonna have to bear with us on that.
No, no, dude, it's totally fine. And who knows, maybe we'll just end up having to do another one with Justin in it as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, just to kind of like kick things off, would you mind giving a little bit of background on yourself, like where you were, maybe 2, 3 years ago,
Oh
kind
yeah.
of what happened, where you're at today, and like there's a little bit of a difference in what you're doing in those times. So, I'd love to hear just your journey to get there, in the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, there is no secret to it. I had no business being in this space at all. No formal background doing YouTube, making videos. It was just something that we decided that we wanted to do. And we'll get more into that later. But rewind, it was a year and a half ago when Justin and I entered a Red Bull competition. And at the time, I'm working for Apple full time. Justin is in his last year of college and also doing personal training for a company. And I remember it. I was sitting on the toilet and I came across this ad on Facebook. It was like, Red Bull, can you make it? And it was all about a bunch of different teams traveling across the world, kind of like an Amazing Race, but for more millennial style people.
Nice.
And I remember shooting that over to Justin, and I'm like, dude, we should look into this. A week passes. He doesn't say anything to me. We call each other, and it gets brought up. And we're like, yeah, let's just give it a go. So it was myself and Justin and another friend of ours, Dylan. We pushed as hard as we could for this competition because it was all based around votes to get through the first phase. So I remember sitting behind a computer for 5 days after we made our promo video for this, and I think I sent out 8,000 Facebook direct messages to people like, hey, spamming literally everyone I know, asking them to go vote for us. We made it through that, and
That's
then
crazy.
we lost in the final stages when the judges came about. So that was
Oh
the
man.
only video experience I had ever had, and it was super informal.
Oh
But yeah, I was single a year ago and just working for Apple.
man. And so what was the stimulus then after that? Like what was the spark to say, all right, you know what? That was that was something we loved and you wanted to just dive into it. But like most people are probably watching us or listening to this and
Yeah.
thinking, all right, dude's got a job at Apple. Like that's what every college grad wants. Or college senior, and he sounds like he's doing pretty well. Had a cool experience, all right. But what drives you then to quit that job and just go full fledged into the YouTube world?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little cliff note, I actually was a college dropout at this point.
Okay.
Got a job working from home for Apple, and I mean it was a really good job. It's one that people would want to stick with. But I know that for myself and some other people, and maybe people that are listening or watching, there was like this itch inside of me. While yes, this was like a really good opportunity working for Apple, I hated it. Hated going into work every day. It was not what I wanted to do. And I
Huh.
couldn't shake this feeling. And that feeling is like stirring up inside of me so much. And it was at the same point when the Red Bull competition was going on. And the day before the judges made their decisions, I remember talking to Justin saying, I don't care what happens here, whether we make it or whether we lose, I'm quitting my job and I'm backpacking across Europe for the next month. And fast forward to the next day, we didn't get it. And Justin is crushed, and I'm on this mission, and I'm like, I'm going to do this. And 3 days later, Justin calls me and he's like, let's do it. So it wasn't like we decided, yeah, we want to be these huge YouTube stars. It really just started with this feeling inside of both of us that we don't like what we're doing. And if there's one thing we want to be able to do at the end of our life, is look back and think, wow, I'm so glad I took that risk. Whether or not it pays out, I'm so glad that I can look at my kids when they're in the similar situation and we can say, you know what? I put myself out there and I tried it, and I think you should do the same.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So go ahead. So where does it go from there then? Like you decide you're going to go to Europe then, and is backpacking the next stage of the story?
absolutely. So we know nothing about YouTube at all at this point. You know, we watch it just as much as anyone else does. And Justin says, hey, you know, while we're going over to Europe, maybe we should make some videos about our experience while we're over there. And we both think it's a great idea, but it's kind of a side project at this point. And also, I want to say at the same time, it's really tough to explain to your parents and the rest of your family, your friends, your girlfriend of 5 years, and also especially her parents, hey, I have this really good opportunity with Apple, but I'm going to quit it and just become a vagabond across Europe. Like,
Right.
that's really difficult to sell people on. And I think that was the hardest hurdle for us to get over at the first point. So once we finally convinced everyone that, hey, we're going to do this, I remember the day before we took the flight to Europe, I said to Justin, I wonder what the versions of ourselves in 6 months are going to say to ourselves looking back. Like, I wonder what stories they're going to have, what they're going to tell us, and whether or not they'd say, hey, this is a great idea, or that was the worst decision you ever made. Like, all these unknowns were just rolling around through our heads. So we're backpacking across Europe. And one of the first videos we ever made was climbing on top of the Eiffel Tower. So we went up on the Eiffel Tower. The next video we made, which was one of my favorites and brings back the best memories, was when we went running with the bulls in Spain. That was by far the scariest thing we'd ever done to date, because there's like these huge bulls that are just running at you, ready to kill you. I honestly don't know why we did it, but I'm so glad we did. And so we just kept making these videos, and it started off like we were talking about before. The only viewer we had was our moms watching the videos. We're getting like 2 views and it's our moms, and they are leaving the best comments ever on these videos. And it wasn't like there was this huge surge of people watching our stuff, but it was like, wow, we love what we are doing. Sure, we're not making any money, but we absolutely love what it is we're doing at the time. So that was the best thing for both of us. It's just like, for the first time in our lives, we really felt like we were doing what we loved.
That's awesome. So just to give listeners a little bit of context, can you explain the concept of the show, kind of what your guys' channel is all about, and you know what your mission is with it?
Yeah, for sure. So it was heavily inspired by a huge inspiration to us when we were growing up. Are you familiar with the show The Buried Life?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was like the best. That was like crack for us when we were kids, just watching these people cross these crazy things off of our bucket list. And we always told ourselves that we wanted to do that one day. And it's been like 8 years since the last episode of theirs came out. So we felt like it was time to bring out a new twist on what they had done already. So that's what our channel is all about: completing bucket list items and doing things that we love, not doing things for other people, but doing the things that we love. And if you like it, come watch it. Was our whole mentality.
And you guys are, of course, formerly known as Bucket List Boys. That's that's the channel name. So
Yeah.
We'll hear, I'm sure, some exciting stories throughout this episode. But so fast forward to today. Now you guys, you went from having your moms watching it and being the only people commenting on the show, and I'm very familiar with that stage of the game. I remember episode number 1 of the Millennial Mastermind podcast. The only people who listened were probably family and the 400 people I spammed with email, which instantly got my email shut down first day of the podcast as being like blacklisted as a spam trap. So that didn't go over so well, but that's a story for another time. But so fast forward, you're no longer just have a few people who you know really well watching, but you guys, last I looked, was we're at like 26,000 subscribers,
Yeah.
which is just crazy to me, because you've only been doing this for less than a year,
Yeah.
from what I could tell. Like,
Hmm.
what has happened in that time? Like, how have you guys seen such explosive growth in it?
I wish that I could say it's that Justin and I are these really smart people that planned out this beautiful, elaborate plan. But honestly, what it comes down to is we were making content that we really enjoyed. And by us making content that we really enjoyed, it was naturally pretty good. Or at least if you ask us or our viewers, it was really good. So we like to think of that first phase of Europe was just figuring out that this is what we love to do. So
Yeah.
when we got back from Europe, it was like, okay, this is what we love to do. I can't live on $50 in my bank account and eating rice and beans every meal with you anymore. How do we actually turn this into something? So I remember it was a month later, we picked up a new cameraman. So we have a cameraman that agreed to just follow us around out of his spare time and do this for us. And we had made 30 videos at this point of just us completing all the things we would want to do before we die. And one of those videos, which was our absolute favorite and by far the most scariest, was walking away from an explosion. Justin and I put like 2 pounds of tannerite and like 4 gallons of gasoline, blew it up, and walked away from it. We got some really big attention from shows like the name of the show is slipping me, but we got a lot of views from a specific show. And then we said, okay, so we have this really good content. How do we get these people behind us? So
Right.
we decided to email 20 different people that were big in the YouTube game. And mind it, we only have 1,000 subscribers at this time. We had really good content, but not a lot of viewership behind our stuff.
Sure.
So we shot out and mass email to 20 different people, and one of them happened to be Logan Paul, which if you are anywhere on the internet, you've probably seen his face. He's the blonde, goofy guy. We said, we're these guys from Ohio. We've got a lot of passion with what we're doing, and we would love to work with you. It was 30 minutes later after we sent the email, he responded to us and he said, I absolutely love this. How can we make this work? So the video that really set us off is I had proposed to Kristen a month earlier, and he had always wanted to officiate a wedding. So we flew him out to Las Vegas. We flew out to Las Vegas, rented a mansion for the weekend, and he officiated our wedding. And
that's incredible.
It was crazy watching going from 1,000 subs to 26,000 subscribers I think it was 20,000 subscribers over the matter of 4 hours. We're literally just watching our phone. This is just blowing up. People are hitting us up, and we didn't know what to do because we couldn't even use our phones. They were like just getting so many notifications.
That's awesome. So where do you go then from there? So like, you just had this awesome opportunity, and I shouldn't even just say opportunity. I should say you guys created an awesome opportunity. It didn't just
Yeah.
come out of nowhere. So how do you follow up on that success to keep things moving forward?
Absolutely. Justin and I both told ourselves that if we can land one person, we can use that to land the next. So we've always focused on landing one big thing and then using that momentum to build into the next. And I think that's a universal concept. Whenever you have momentum, use it to push into other stuff. So right after we shot that video with Logan Paul, we emailed 5 different people. And remember that we shot out an email to 20 and only 1 responded. We shot out an email to 5 different people. Every single one responded after they saw that we worked with Logan Paul. So we just started working with them. One was Jake Paul, one was The Dude Sins, one was another channel, Yes Theory. And regardless of what people are working on, if you can get someone that's respected in your industry to give you the time of day and build something with you, even if it's small, that goes so far in the long run, and you can use that so well.
Yeah, I bet. That's awesome. So one thing that that caught my eye about your guys' channel, and our mutual friend Jake had mentioned this when he recommended I reach out to you. Is
Yeah.
just that you guys had that success with connecting with influencers. And so when you were sending that first round of like 20 emails to anybody you could think of at that point who you'd love to get on their do a collaboration with, or get on their show, or have them on yours, what's the pitch there? Like,
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that you ended up doing the wedding, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Some great video content, but so what is the sell? How do you even get his attention so he responds in 30 minutes?
Yeah, so we actually made a video breaking down our process completely. But
Nice.
to sum it up is there's one golden rule when reaching out to someone that is out of your pay grade. You have to make it as easy as possible and give them value. You can't ask for things from them. You have to give them value and make it as easy as possible. To where all they have to say is, yes, let's do it.
That makes a lot of sense, because these guys you're reaching out to, or gals, they're getting hundreds or thousands of these requests. So you got to make it easy, and you got to make it worth their time.
Absolutely.
Right off the bat.
It's got to catch their attention right away, and it's just got to make sense for them as well. So if you can make it as easy as possible while giving them value, that's really all you have to do. And also email 20 other people doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you got to put some thought into that too, I imagine. Like, you can't just copy and paste the same exact thing, or maybe you do, but you customize it for each one, or have a way that really grabs at that individual person based on what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely no easy task getting one of these people to respond to you, but if you put in a lot of thought onto each one that you're doing, 90%, 95% won't get back to you. But all it takes is just that one person to respond, and that's all you need.
That's right. Just takes the one. So on this show, I've talked a lot about creating content and ways for people to get out of their standard 9-to-5 job. There's a lot of listeners who are passionate about the idea of entrepreneurship, or the idea of creating something that can get them out of whatever current situation they're in and give them control of their own lives. And so with that, we've talked obviously about podcasting. I'm a podcasting junkie, so I'm always talking to my friends and the listeners about ways you can start that, blogging, things like that. But this is my first time to actually sit down and with a YouTuber who's doing it right and understand kind of the inner workings of your space. So I'd be curious, how do you quote unquote make it on YouTube? Like, what is the path to monetizing your channel and being able to live off of something besides beans and rice?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's a really good question, because that's what we struggled with, and that's why so many people, there's millions of YouTubers out there, but only a handful that you recognize, because the only time you're going to make money is when you have that following behind you, or that's how it's conventionally been done. So, and it can take a really long time. I remember talking to Logan Paul. He said before he ever got on Vine, him and his brother worked on YouTube trying to make it for 3 years and only got 6,000 subscribers. Like, it's no easy task breaking that threshold into the next level. So that's something that Justin and I have really been trying to focus on. And what we've come up with is we're in a weird stage with marketing, how a lot of big brands, like if you look at Sprint, one of the biggest cell phone carriers out there, just partnered with a social media influencer, Jake Paul, to create content for him. So our game plan on that is to make revenue on YouTube, you've got to be getting millions of views. They say it's every million views is $2,000. So what our game plan is, rather than trying to make the money off of YouTube, showing this really good content that we've created and that we can get it out in front of people, to brands. So trying to work with brands. And so I can't talk too much about it at this point because it's
Sure.
nothing solidified. But we actually use that strategy of showing some of our really good content to brands, showing how we can work with them and them pushing out the content for us. So that's one of the biggest things right now that we're super excited working with brands to be able to actually make a living doing this.
Yeah, and I love that you guys are kind of thinking outside of the box there and looking for those other ways that you can monetize it and make a living out of it. Because if you try, it's similar with podcasting, a little bit different, but if you're trying just to live off ad revenue, it's the same boat. You've got to get to the
Absolutely.
point where you're on the front page of iTunes every day and you're getting millions of downloads per
Yep.
episode, and it definitely takes some time to get there. It's not impossible, but not
Mm-hmm.
everybody, even shows with some great content, don't get there always just because of their niche audience or something like that. But
Absolutely.
hearing you just talk about looking for a different avenue to get there
Mm-hmm.
quicker before you have it. I mean, I watched your guys' show. You're going to be in the million download or the million subscriber mark in no
Hey.
time. But I like that you're not waiting for that. You're taking control of the situation and
Yeah,
finding other avenues to get there.
absolutely. Because if, for instance, on YouTube, if you scroll through the trending page on YouTube, you are going to see a lot of clickbait videos that are absolute crap. And Justin and I have told ourselves that that's never what we want to be. And if that's not what we want to be, then it's going to take a lot longer, or we're going to have to be a lot smarter to grow quickly. So that's why we tried to think of different ways we could maintain ourselves to get to that tipping point that we finally see.
God, I feel like I feel like I'm talking to myself in some regards because the same thing happens with podcasts where
No.
people will have an episode title where it'll be like thoughts on success from Tony Robbins. And you're like, oh, yeah, I want to listen to what Tony Robbins has to say about success. And then you go on and it's just some like random guy talking about something he read in a Tony Robbins article, like on Forbes or something. It's just like, no, not what I was going for. So I like that
Yeah,
you
no,
guys
that's
are staying true and
no, it's super true.
authentic. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, because it all started with us hating what we were doing, and we don't want to get to the tipping point by hating what we're doing. We want to be doing things that we actually love. And I mean, like you said, you creating a podcast or creating YouTube, the only difference is the way you're sharing it. Like it's very similar to what you and I both are doing.
Yeah, for sure. So following up on that aspect of doing what you love now, getting to the tipping point of what you hated and just saying, I'm going to go for it. Do you have any advice for anybody out there who may be listening to this and hates what they're doing in their job, and they want to go do something else, but they just haven't gotten quite to that tipping point to make a move?
Absolutely. Quick disclaimer, I don't recommend you quit your job and backpack across Europe with your best friend. But what I do recommend is that you start doing what you love in small ways. And how that looked like for Justin and I was we loved this idea of Red Bull. We had no idea that if we fast forwarded a year, this project with Red Bull and them turning us away would turn into us working with Logan Paul. But we were just doing what we honest to God love to do. And that, like, when you're starting something, there's going to be those points where you look at yourselves and you're like, we can't do this. This is terrible. We should probably quit. And the only way you're going to break through that is if you're doing something that you honestly feel passionate about. So start doing things that you love. And then once you are doing it more and more often, figure out a way that you can monetize it. But I would never suggest, unless you're just an unhappy person, doing something that you don't love or you don't feel passionate about it, because chances are you'll never make it to that tipping point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And even if it seems like your situation is impossible to get out of, or just feels like you're trapped where you're at, like you said, just start taking action any way you can and build some momentum on that. Even if it's something so small every day, just do something tiny to get the ball moving and then just go with the momentum.
Absolutely. Because I mean, to give you two different scenarios, if I start two different companies, one that I love, one that I hate, the one that I love, if I'm getting 5 views on my videos, but I'm loving what I'm doing, I'm still loving what I'm doing. And it's not about metrics. If I'm starting something that I hate and I'm getting 5 views, I'm going to have a pretty bad time doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great point. So you mentioned something interesting earlier that I want to loop back in on for a final question here. But you said when you guys were heading over to Europe, you kind of looked over and asked Justin, I wonder if the version of us in 6 months is going to look back and say this was the best decision we've ever made or the worst decision. What do you think, kind of in that same regards, if you had the version of you 20 years down the road from now, so, 40 or 50 some years old,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever that is, what do you think that version of Elisha would say to you now?
Oh man,
Yeah, it really
that's
flips
a
it
that's
on
a
its head.
big one. Oh gosh, yeah. So the only thing that I can think he would say is the same thing that I would say to the version of myself 6 months ago. It's keep doing what you're loving to do and you will finally make it. Like when I look back at myself 6 months ago, if I could tell myself the experience of running with the Bulls, getting married by Logan Paul, working with these huge companies for ad revenue, it would blow my mind. So honestly, I don't know what the 40-year-old version of myself is going to say to me. And I don't think I want to know because that's what part of the journey is about, figuring out.
I love it. No, I love it, and it's always just one of those interesting philosophical questions
Yeah,
that
yeah.
makes you kind of get outside of yourself for a minute. But I
I got a
think,
question for you to end it.
please, let's hear it.
I want to ask the same question to you because you're building, like, no matter if it's like people are listening to Millennial Masterminds because they love it, like you're growing a business yourself as well.
Yeah,
What do you think the 40-year-old version would say to you?
I think I think what he would say is focus on growing the business in ways that you are proud of and that you love. So similar to what you said, but I think, and you I'm sure are facing similar decisions right now of there's different directions you can take it. And so for me, that is we just started an actual mastermind group, that has a handful of people involved of it that get on a call weekly right now. I love that. Like I get so fired up for that call every week. But there's other directions I could go where I know it might not be the thing I'm most passionate about, but there's
Yeah, yeah.
probably revenue opportunities there. But I think long term, that's not going to be sustainable. And I'm just going to work myself into a corner that I don't enjoy. So I have to, and it's hard to do when
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
trying to make it, and a pot of money over here looks really nice. So having the patience to wait for that thing you love is challenging. So I think that's what, old, wrinkly, wise Brad might say to me now.
Well, I got an idea. I say in 40 years, when you're still doing this and I'm still doing YouTube, let's jump back on this podcast
Dude, I
and
love
tell
it.
our younger versions what we would say.
I love it. I love it. Then we'll just link back to here and it's evergreen content.
That's awesome, dude.
Awesome. Well, Elisha, so we mentioned that the show is called Bucket List Boys, or the channel. Anywhere else that you'd point people to find anything out, or is that the main place to look you up?
No, that's the place to go. We have Instagram as well, but the main thing I would say to the viewers listening right now is this podcast is some of the most fun that I have had. And I'm actually excited to go tell my friends. So I would say to the viewers, like, the Bucket List Boys, whatever, listen to Millennial Masterminds because this is
Ah,
pretty awesome stuff you're doing.
you're too sweet. You're too sweet. Well, thanks. I really appreciate, dude, you coming by today. This has been fun, and as I mentioned, this is the first video conversation I've had. So this one will be up on YouTube. So anybody who's listening can just check out Brad Mulvey on YouTube, and we'll have this posted up so they can see your beautiful beard and my not so charming face. But it'll be good, and I think there'll be many more of these to come.
That's incredible, Brad. Again, thank you so much for having me. It has been an absolute blast.